Today is Labor Day 2023. It's September 4th, and this is William Michael of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. When I moved to North Carolina back in 2005, I had spent my whole life in New Jersey and knew nothing about North Carolina. Never imagined living down south. And so I took some time, my wife and I took some time to just learn about the state when we moved down here. And by far the coolest thing that I learned about North Carolina, there's not too much to get excited about, but one thing that I did find pretty neat was the state motto. The state motto in North Carolina is in Latin, esse quam videri. And in English, that translates as to be rather than to appear. It's a pretty great state motto. Our goal is not to merely appear to be something, but to actually be something good. To be rather than to appear. Esse quam videri. It's a great motto. We live in the information age, and if there was one thing that I would say is true of this information age, is that it's the opposite of that motto of North Carolina. Rather than to be, rather than to appear, the information age can almost be characterized as an age in which people are more concerned with appearing to be things rather than being anything at all. This is a problem that's developed, I think, for several hundred years. I would blame it back on the Protestant Reformation, which worked to separate the significance of human deeds from human self-evaluation, and that the Protestant Reformation, with its talk about faith alone, salvation by faith alone, really created the culture where people imagined themselves free to judge their own quality, to judge their own worthiness of eternal life, to judge their own value in every area, with no reference to any actual deeds. No reference to any achievements, no reference to any actual qualifications or credentials. It's a culture of self-approval. How do I know that I'm saved? Well, because I declare myself to be saved. How do I know that I'm a true Christian? Well, I believe that I'm a true Christian. Therefore, I am a true Christian. This is the mentality of Protestantism, and of course Protestants would deny that because it's absurd, but their denial is false. This is the essence of Protestantism. It's a religion of self-approval. And what the Protestants hated about Catholicism was that it was a religion of objective measures in religious life. For example, there was a formal process of ordination with a sacrament of holy orders that distinguished the priest from the layman. There were different orders. Among holy orders, there were deacons, there were priests, there were bishops. And these distinctions were made by other people. A man was not able to appoint himself a priest, as Protestants will do. A man had to be approved by an existing body, a body that could claim apostolic succession. And in order to obtain that ordination, one had to complete the steps of an established process, just as priests continue to do today. A Catholic man can't start his own church and declare himself to be the pastor. Only Protestants can do that. It's pretty crazy when you think about that, but that's how it works because it's a religion of self-approval. In Catholicism, I'll admit, as a Catholic, the pressure of living under the constant call of so many deeds in the Catholic life is overwhelming at times. No matter how much one does every day, let's just take devotional activities as an example. No matter how much one does, we can continue to think of other devotions we could do but don't do. You could pray the rosary and then say, well, yeah, that's great, but did you also pray the Liturgy of the Hours? And you can pray morning and evening prayer and then say, yeah, but did you pray Office of Readings? Did you go to daily Mass? And you could just go on and on because in the Catholic faith, there's so much to do. So many deeds that can be done on even a daily basis. And it just never, ever feels like you've checked all the boxes. That's one of the challenges of the Catholic life. And if you have a right disposition, you'll actually love that about the Catholic life, that you're constantly challenged to get better. You're constantly challenged to examine your life. You're constantly challenged to cut out any fat in your schedule, to eliminate any unnecessary activities, and constantly ratchet up your life. And there's just more and more devotional activity waiting for you as you do so. Sometimes, however, it can be overwhelming. People who don't want to be bothered with that, who want to just approve of themselves, would feel that to be oppressive. And so Protestants can't get away from Catholicism fast enough because they want to be in an environment where they declare themselves righteous, but have a way of justifying how they can judge themselves to be righteous when they actually have so little religious deeds, have so few religious deeds to point to as evidence of their virtue, of their righteousness. Catholicism for such people is oppressive. It's discouraging and overwhelming because you always feel your weakness, you always feel your inadequacy, you feel your own vices, you feel your own laziness. And we're challenged to constantly get better. This is also true in Catholic circles with reference to study. There's no limit to what you could study as a Catholic. You could spend your whole life studying the Summa Theologica, and then you would find that there are just volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of other great works by the Church Fathers, not to mention the 73 books of sacred scripture, which you could also devote your entire life to and just scratch the surface. So in the Catholic life, there's just always more to do. And no matter how much you work, no matter how much you do, you're forced to confess, as Jesus taught his disciples to confess, that I'm just an unprofitable servant. All I've done is what I'm supposed to do. That's the beauty of Catholicism and how it teaches us humility. But what's great about Catholicism at the same time, and what it often gets criticized for, is that Catholic deeds are visible. They're measurable. A person can say, I pray the rosary every day at 3 o'clock. It's a measurable religious activity. A person can say, I've become a member of the Order of Saint Benedict. It's a measurable achievement in religion. A person can say, I've got a degree in theology from a Catholic university, and it's a measurable achievement. There are these real measurable achievements in the Catholic life. They're real in the sense that they're significant. These achievements actually have real religious value. They often come with promises and blessings attached to them. They're significant. They're real. Ordination, for example, is something significant, something real, something that we can take into eternity. It's real. And so as a Catholic, we can pursue worldly, we can call them worldly because they're visible, measurable, tangible. We can pursue these worldly achievements, and by our industry and stability of life and perseverance, we can accumulate these things over time through our Catholic life. And it's a human source of motivation to be industrious and virtuous and single-minded. And most other religions, especially Protestantism, doesn't share that visual, temporal aspect that Catholicism does. And that makes sense when we consider that Catholicism preaches the existence of a visible church, whereas Protestantism, while acknowledging the reality of its own self-started churches, denies that there's any true, visible, global church. Only the churches that they start themselves are true churches. Again, it's a religion of self-approval. But that spirit of self-approval was probably started in the Renaissance and Reformation, I would say. And now it's spread to become just the character of modern society, especially in America, where it really doesn't matter if anyone achieves something. He can simply take credit to himself and celebrate himself with any title he pleases through self-approval. And this is very common. The idea of democracy causes this craziness to a degree, because when we think that my vote, my one vote in our democratic elections have the same value as the one vote of Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Barack Obama. We're both equal. We both have one vote. Our opinions are just as valuable. We can tell ourselves that, and of course it's not true. But if we want to puff ourselves up, we can think like that and think that we're all equal, even though that's not true, because our platform from which we share our opinions and the influence of those opinions is certainly not equal. But this is what democracy does. It makes common people go crazy. It makes them imagine they're all one step from government office. It makes the common people crazy. And so we live in this culture of self-approval where people all but award themselves honorary degrees and mock those who get the actual degrees, mock those who do the actual work, mock those who are actually ordained, mock those who are actually elected into offices in the church or offices in the government, mock those offices, mock those ordinations as if they're not real, while congratulating themselves as if they're the possessors of some real authority. It's craziness. But this is the information age. It's the age of self-approval, the age of appearances. And it's difficult to live in this society because if you're the kind of person who's polite, you may feel uncomfortable asking people to see their credentials. And this has almost become taboo in American society to actually check for credentials. It's in fashion to say, oh, I don't even care if I'm hiring people. I don't even care if they've been to college or if they have a degree. All that matters is that you know how to do the job and you can produce results. Well, that's a very American thing to say, and it sounds cute. But most people who are industrious and responsible, they go to college. And this idea that the greatest workers and the smartest, wisest, and best people choose not to go to college is simply not true. And if you were to choose to go into work as a young adult with a degree or without a degree, and you're an intelligent person, you're a hard worker, you're disciplined and focused, the choice to do so with a degree would be better than the choice to do so without a degree. So it doesn't really make any sense to create this mythical character of the smart, independent, hard-working 20-year-old who doesn't go get a college degree. It's just part of this American fantasy that the people who don't go to college, who don't study, who have no formal record of any actual intellectual achievement are the smart people, and the people who actually study the books, take exams, write essays, participate in class discussions, and submit themselves to the evaluation of others, they're the ones who really don't know anything. That's part of this insane American spirit. The people who actually run political campaigns and win offices don't understand how government works. But the guy who's got a free Twitter account, or maybe he pays the $8 a month to have a verified Twitter account, he's the one who knows how government really works. And again, that's an American thing. It's part of the insanity that's bred by democracy. And I'd like to challenge Catholics, and I may have said some of those things tongue-in-cheek and poking fun at people, but I'd like to talk seriously with Catholics and say that we need to stop this. We need to begin asking for credentials. We need to begin demanding that people do things in an orderly way that lends some credibility to their talk, to their opinions, to their counsels, and so on. We need to tell people that rather than going into adult life and choosing to not pursue a college degree because you're just going to assert your intelligence for the rest of your life, we're not going to grant you that self-approval. If you're actually intelligent, if you're actually industrious, if you're capable of studies, if you're open-minded, you should go and demonstrate that by earning a college degree. And, by the way, you should do so from a school that's known for the rigor of its studies and assessments. You shouldn't go sign up at the community college to study philosophy and then start entering into conversations as if you're Thomas Aquinas, coming from the University of Paris in the 13th century. We need to start holding people accountable to actual achievements, to measurable achievements. We need to be snobbish in this sense. We need to hold people accountable to doing things that are reasonable for people who claim to have certain abilities. For example, if you're an electrician and you want to go around telling people you're an electrician, you should earn an electrician's license. You should be a licensed electrician. If that's how the electrical industry works, electricians are licensed craftsmen. You should get a license that shows that you are a qualified electrician. We need to start holding people accountable to achievements. If you claim to know things about business and finance, then you should be running a business. You should have a business to show as a sign of your skill. You shouldn't be a person who sits in a cubicle working for others while you write online about principles of capitalism and entrepreneurialism and all of this talk about business management, marketing, and so on, because you're not that guy. You shouldn't be meddling in political discussions about economics when you're at the bottom of the totem pole and really have no idea how higher activities in the market even work. You've never even been in a position of management. You've never been responsible to file business taxes. You've never been responsible to pay employees. You really don't understand how these things work, and yet you're voicing your opinions about them with no experience. Now, in America, you may be allowed to do that because you're allowed to vote on all these things. You're allowed to share your ideas and opinions, but just because you can does not mean that you should. If a topic of discussion comes up that you have no experience with, you've never formally studied it, you've never demonstrated yourself to understand the topic, you should be quiet on that topic. Just because you can legally express your opinion and post all over the internet doesn't mean that you should, especially on an issue that you really have no experience with, and you've never demonstrated any knowledge on the subject. You're just self-approving. And that's really not a Christian thing to do. And this is not just my opinion, this is what is taught in sacred scripture. In the book of Proverbs, we're taught, let another man's lips praise you, and not your own lips. Let another man's lips praise you, and not your own lips. And you can see how that proverb directly applies to this whole topic. Rather than tell people that you were a great high school football player, you should just be quiet, because if it's true that you were really a great high school football player, other people should say so. And we shouldn't have to hear it from your mouth. We should know it. I mean, I can do a quick Google search, look up your name, and see if there's any actual record from anyone else's viewpoint that agrees with your self-approval. We can check these things today. We can look at people's profiles. We can see their actual achievements. It's really not a mystery. And the idea of self-approval really doesn't make any sense. But this spirit of self-approving has just spread through society. And people really act crazy because they really seem to become convinced that they know better. That Catholic laymen really think they know better than the bishop. Catholic laymen really begin to think that they know better than the Pope or the College of Cardinals. And that's when you know that you're going crazy, when you actually think that you know better than people who have experience in these works for decades and decades, and you've got zero experience, but talk about the inner workings of things that you've never even observed or participated in. In no other area of practical life, locally in your life, you would never do this. You would never pretend to know how to run the local bakery. You would never pretend to know how to run the local courthouse. You would never pretend to know how to actually administer a local school program. And we can see this by your actual deeds, that you don't do these things. But when it comes to talking about international politics or global economics or Catholic Church administration, suddenly you have all the answers. You just can't figure out how to succeed in any of the things that happen to be within your reach. And we need to start calling this baloney and not listening to these people. We need to start asking for credentials. We need to start looking at resumes, as it were. And we need to adjust the volume on the people who are speaking. We need to adjust the volume based on their actual measurable achievements, on the actual evidence of their knowledge and experience in these different areas. Imagine if we could do that. Imagine if your actual achievements determined the volume at which you were allowed to speak. And so people with no achievements could barely be heard above a whisper, whereas those who had the highest objective achievements were heard at full volume. That would give us a better representation of opinions on different issues. But you see that you may even be thinking, as I say this, you may be ready to dismiss all of these things. Dismiss all these things. Oh, a college degree doesn't mean anything. Is that really true? Is it really true that a college degree doesn't mean anything? Is it really true that a person who goes to college and gets A's in 40 different courses really doesn't show that he has more knowledge or is likely to have more knowledge than a person who's never completed a course? Does it really not show anything? Even if you say, well, some people go to college and they just get C's. They just go live on student loans for 4 or 5 years. They get C's, they party and goof around, and they graduate and have a degree. Well, you can paint a picture of some John Belushi Animal House character. But does that person you're describing really exist? Because even to get C's in college takes some work. It takes work to complete 40 courses in college over 4 or more years to finally earn the degree. And besides, students can't get student loans unless they're passing college courses, unless they're admitted to colleges. So you can't just go get a student loan and blow it on kegs of beer. You're not going to get any more financial aid unless you're passing courses. So that caricature really isn't true. The fact that a student committed to a goal of obtaining a bachelor's degree, which requires the completion of 40 courses in college, even if they're not the highest student in the class, it still takes some commitment. It's still a sign of the ability that a student has, that an individual has, of pursuing a goal and fulfilling that goal. And so a person who doesn't have a degree, what evidence does he have of being able to carry out a project or finish a goal? So the criticism really isn't reasonable. And yet this is common talk today. Degrees are stupid, education's stupid, schools are stupid, the government's stupid, the church is stupid, everything and everyone is stupid except Frank, who has a Twitter account. He's the only thing that's not stupid. And you can just see that this whole idea is embarrassingly absurd. But it's common today to hear people talk like this. It's common, and we need to learn to stop this. We need to learn to push back on this and respect measurable achievement, even if we don't agree with everything. For example, let's say that someone comes along and they say, well, I've got a theological degree from Harvard Divinity School. You could say, well, on the one hand, I'm a Catholic. Harvard Divinity School is not a Catholic institution, so that doesn't necessarily gain you any credibility on Catholic theology. If you had a degree from, let's say, the Dominican House of Studies or a Catholic seminary, that would be different, because I would know that you've gone through sacred scripture courses. I would know that you've studied the Catechism of the Church and the Church Fathers to some degree. I would know that that seminary degree that you earned in theology from a Catholic university or Catholic seminary represents at least some knowledge of the essential works of the Catholic faith. But a degree from Harvard Divinity School doesn't tell me much about your expertise and experience, or I should say your knowledge and experience with Catholic religion. It does, however, represent a rigorous course of studies that relate to the subject of religion. A person with a degree from Harvard Divinity School probably does have a good knowledge of world religions, probably does have a good knowledge of church history, probably does have a knowledge of biblical languages and things like that. So it's not to be dismissed. We can qualify the value of that degree in and of itself, but it can't simply be dismissed, because many of those courses that were studied, subjects that were learned, would also be learned in a Catholic theological education. So it can't just be dismissed because it's not explicitly Catholic. And besides, we know that to gain admission to Harvard Divinity School, one has to be very strong intellectually, very strong academically, even to get in a general sense. So we can qualify the value of that degree, but to dismiss it is just ignorant. It's irrational to dismiss it. So we've got to learn to stop listening to the people who tell us that credentials are irrelevant. Because the only reason that they're saying that is because they don't have the credentials. And you can easily prove this by the fact that if they do have a credential, they'll be advertising it. If they have achieved any credentials, they'll be publishing their credentials all over the place. I'll give you a couple good examples. Michael Voris, the YouTube guy who has made a career out of criticizing the clergy, will slander and criticize and mock the church at every turn, but then he'll present himself as being Michael Voris, and he'll advertise the theology degree that he received from a Catholic university, as if being approved by the Catholic university, which is under the direction of the clergy, of the hierarchy of the church, that he calls stupid and immoral and foolish every day of the week, suddenly becomes valuable when they give him a degree. And you see this self-contradiction. So you can see that it's insincere. People will criticize credentials that they don't have. And they will pretend that credentials that they do have are legitimate and real and unquestionable and demonstrative. And that's just the insincerity of their argument. It takes some humility to simply admit, this man over here has achieved more academically than I did. That takes humility to admit that. That doesn't mean that objectively he's more intelligent than me. That doesn't mean that he's right about this issue and I'm wrong. We still have to look at the evidence. We still have to look at the arguments. But that's the difference. Ultimately, it brings us to the hard evidence. Ultimately, it brings us to the actual arguments. And when we look at the uneducated, we look at those who have not pursued formal education, they very rarely present hard evidence and sound arguments. They're often pushing conspiracy theories. They're often passing around secondhand information, hearsay evidence. And even if you show them that their arguments are inconclusive or that their premises are not true, they cling to their opinion as if they do have some kind of authority that overrides any need for proof. And so the same people who will scoff at credentials, scoff at measurable academic achievement, they will also scoff at demands for evidence or demands for sound arguments. You'll rarely find someone with no academic credentials who provides excellent evidence for his assertions or who presents sound arguments for his position. Because again, if he would invest the time and effort into studying, and if he was actually prudent, he would have picked up some academic credentials along the way. I've had to deal with this my whole career because I studied for a bachelor's degree, earned an honors bachelor's degree, was inducted into Phi Beta Kappa, was a straight A student, and so on. But I chose to stop my studies when I was a young man at my bachelor's degree. I was admitted to graduate school, completed 15 credits, I think. Again, was a straight A student, and then chose to devote myself to teaching. And I've had to live with this reality that I only pursued a bachelor's degree. And yet, because I intended to go into private business where degrees aren't the means of achievement, not only was I able to do work that didn't require any advanced degrees, but I ended up being at times the employer of men with advanced degrees. And yet at the same time, I respected their achievement because I know that it takes time and money. It takes sacrifice to complete degree programs. You've got to juggle lots of different responsibilities. You've got to take some risk in order to pursue those things, and I respect those achievements. But at the same time, I'm quite confident that when I make an argument for something or present my view on an issue, that I'm quite good at providing hard evidence and sound arguments. And I rely on the evidence and arguments I present as the strength of my position. I don't appeal to any academic background. I could say, well, I'm a classicist. I've got an honors degree in classics, so I've proven that, I was able to master the content of classics courses according to the judgment of experts in the field who had done the same previously. But the strength of my position, I really never presented dependent on my credentials. It's better to have it dependent on arguments and evidence. And if we're going to do that, if we're going to speak on subjects we do not have credentials in, then our argument depends entirely on, or I should say our position depends entirely on the arguments and evidence that we can provide. And if we can't provide evidence and arguments, we really have to acknowledge that we don't know what we're talking about. And if it's just a matter of opinion, if an issue is just a matter of opinion, we should defer to the opinion of the most qualified person, the person with the greatest, the most significant experience. And I'll respond to people in discussions. I'll post a video or a talk like this, and I'll share my view on a certain subject, and I'll have someone in the comments just post their opinion, which no one asked for. He'll post his opinion, and I'll just respond and say, you've posted your opinion, I've shared my opinion, I prefer my opinion, period. They're just opinions. But if the person were to respond and say, you're talking about economics, I have a PhD in economics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I've worked as a researcher in economics for 25 years, and what you say is completely wrong. And you've got my opinion on economics and that of a doctor in economics with 20 plus years of professional experience. I would likely yield to his opinion if the discussion was simply a matter of opinion. So anyway, what I want to share, and this is really fundamental to Christian education, I want to share a call to respect for credentials. I want to discourage Christian people from talking about measurable achievements as if they're insignificant, mocking degrees, certificates, licenses, and so on. Especially if we're talking about issues where those things are relevant. Because many Catholic children could easily obtain those credentials and gain the benefit of possessing those credentials while also maintaining faithful Catholic positions on issues. But many Catholics are simply choosing to not pick up the credentials and causing themselves rhetorically to speak publicly at a disadvantage for no reason. We often allow other people to appear to be more expert on an issue simply because they collected the credentials and we didn't. And we have to learn to stop this because we're capable of picking up these credentials and leveling the playing field, or to use the illustration I used before, we're capable of turning up the volume of our microphone in the public discussion by appealing to the same degrees, to the same achievements, to the same licenses and qualifications that our opponents have, and neutralizing those things. But we're giving our opponents an advantage rhetorically by ignorantly and irresponsibly scoffing at credentials which are relatively easy to obtain if we actually are good students. When I look back, I regret the decision that I made to not pursue more learning when I was younger, but I didn't understand that at the time. And again, because I went into private business, it really didn't affect what I did, though it did initially cause me to have to deal with a lot of doubt and criticism from the more highly credentialed people who I had to disprove by my actual achievement over time. But if we can pick up these credentials, and we can, if we can pick up these credentials, we should, because they give us a rhetorical advantage, or at least remove rhetorical disadvantages. And we should also learn to respect them for what they are, and not arrogantly or ignorantly dismiss them as irrelevant.